Recently, I talked about using the 35mm lens to shoot portraits, a challenge to see people differently. And now, for another curveball, it's simple, it's sharp, it can do both close-ups and environmental portraits. Yes, it's the 50mm lens, often touted as a great beginner lens. It's also one that many pros keep in their bag. Me personally, the 50mm is the lens I grab when I need speed and versatility. I know that I can do a lot with this one lens. Maybe I'm looking at the light and I know that I don't have much time to grab that epic golden glow, but I needed to get a variety of portraits, wide, tight, something in the middle. So rather than fumbling and juggling and trying to swap lenses when I'm rushed, I simply pop on the 50mm and my anxiety levels go down. If you know us, you're familiar that one of our mantras is that simple is best. Sure, there are times to get complicated and try something fancy, but sometimes it's easier to get creative when we start simple. Clear our heads, lighten our backpacks. Simplifying your gear allows you to focus on your creativity and the purpose behind the image. Our lenses are just tools for our craft, and portraits aren't just about faces, they're about stories. The 50mm lets you get close enough to feel like part of someone's world without overwhelming it. It reminds me that we all need to be seen, and photography is one way of truly seeing someone. Our equipment shouldn't be a barrier between us and our subject, but a way to capture a connection. Maybe you're just getting started and the 50mm is your first lens, or maybe you've been doing this forever, but you're struggling to do something different. Let's look at how much we can do with this one simple lens. In this video, I'll talk about why the 50mm works for portraits. I'll give you some posing, framing, and composition tips. We'll talk about how to use depth of field, and then some thoughts on lighting and location. We'll wrap up with some limitations of this focal length and comparison to other lenses you might be considering. By the end, you'll know how to use that 50mm to lower your anxiety and increase your creativity and connection to your subject. I'm Brenda Bergreen. I'm here to provide practical photography tips to help you learn, create, and elevate. Hit subscribe if you want to keep growing your photography skills. And don't forget to check out the affiliate links to our favorite gear in the description. Find something you love and support the channel at the same time. Today, we're diving into how to shoot better portraits using the trusty 50mm lens, whether you're working with the nifty 50 or a high-end 1.2. Part 1, why the 50mm works for portraits. The 50mm hits that sweet spot. It's wide enough to include context, but it's not so wide that it distorts. That makes it versatile for full body, half body, and close-up portraits. You've heard this lens referred to as the nifty 50. It's lightweight, affordable, and has a natural field of view close to the human eye. For this reason, it makes a great beginner lens if you aren't familiar with how different focal lengths will impact your photos yet. But it's also one that seasoned pros come back to because of how natural our subjects look and feel. 50mm lenses also have wide apertures, which create great subject separation when you shoot at f1.8, 1.4, or 1.2. With an 85mm, you have to stand pretty far away to get a full body portrait, which is beautiful, but being closer with the 50 allows your subject to feel close and natural. And when it comes to the tighter shots, you can get closer to the subject with less distortion than with the 35mm lens. It's especially great for couples, families, or storytelling portraits where you want to include a bit of the environment. Living here in Colorado, my clients want to see the beauty of the nature. They've often traveled here specifically for their environmental portraits, and the 50 allows me to strike a balance between showing their beauty and the beauty of the mountains. That being said, let's move on to part 2, posing and framing tips. First up, move your feet. Move your feet in order to get a variety of images, as well as to search for more creative compositions. If you're shooting portraits with a 50, you get to shoot everything from full body, half body, and headshots with one lens. But this means you have to move around in order to capture that variety, which has the added benefit of being a great way to get more creative with your compositions. It's a win-win. You get a variety of shots, and you'll learn a few things about moving your body to find better framing. Pay attention to how moving changes your compositions. When you shifted back, were there suddenly too many distractions in the background, so you needed a lower perspective to hide them? When you got closer, did you decide you needed to actually get higher perspective to flatter your subject better? Next up is using the working distance to your advantage. When you're shooting tighter shots, you'll get pretty close to your subject, which allows you to engage and connect without invading their personal space as much as with the 35, or without shouting instructions from further away as you would with the 85. If it feels really close, you might start with some mid-range shot which might feel like a more comfortable distance, and then work your way in. You can have a conversation, tell a joke, give subtle cues, and capture real expressions of those in-between moments. Don't be afraid to get in there, but make it comfortable for your subject. You'll love how at this distance, you're able to connect with your client in person so that that connection shines through in the photo. And as always, you'll want to use your composition techniques. We don't just put half the body in the frame and call it a good mid-range shot. Where is the subject? What's around the subject? Thinking about using the rule of thirds when positioning your subject, or utilizing negative space so that all eyes are on your subject. Is there a road that can be a leading line, or a window that can be a frame within the frame? Can you find a foreground to layer with your subject on the background? What about contrast? Place the lit subject on a dark background. Is your subject stationary, or is there any movement? Which brings us to posing style. Different portrait photographers have different posing styles. Some are more classic, while others are more natural or lifestyle. Just like choosing which composition techniques work for you, you'll want to find the posing tips that feel right to you. Sometimes you just need to have your subject shift their weight to one hip to get more natural curves, or have them take a step to add some movement. No one ever knows what to do with their hands to give them purpose. So put a hand in the pocket, cross the arms, relax at the sides, hold your hair or the edges of a skirt. I like to try some things and see what looks good on a certain individual, as well as what they feel most comfortable with. What's most natural to them. If it's a couple's portrait, hands on each other, connected and touching. Similarly to giving them something to do with their hands, giving them something to do with their bodies or their minds. Talk to them, ask questions about themselves, or tell them to imagine different things. Have them walk, sit, or interact with the environment. The goal of all of this is for the subject to feel natural so that they will be more themselves. And that's what will come through rather than some pose that we made them do. Let's move on to part 3, aperture and depth of field. I already mentioned the benefit of depth of field that the 50 can create. Shooting at apertures like f1.8 or f1.4 gives you that dreamy background blur that isolates the subject so beautifully. But it also means you've got to nail the focus, especially on the eyes. So make sure, if you struggle with that, to check out my recent videos on sharpness and focus. Now, if it's not quite enough bokeh for your liking, you're going to want to check out longer lenses like the 85mm. But what I love about the 50 is that you get that shallow depth of field while still being able to see a hint of the background. One thing to be cautious of is if you're shooting a couple or multiple people, you might want to bump it up to f2.8 or even higher like f4 for bigger groups so that everyone stays sharp. It'll also be more important to have everyone in the same plane. Part 4, light and location. Let's talk about lighting and location. I love shooting 50mm portraits in soft backlight. Early morning or golden hour, that glow plus the depth of field, magic. Because the 50mm is lightweight, it's easy to shoot on the move, perfect for natural light sessions, lifestyle portraits, or even elopements. As you know, I shoot mostly outdoors, so I'm always looking for beautiful light and beautiful backdrop. And beautiful light is even more important for portraits because you're trying to make your subject look good, usually. And flattering light is one of the best ways to do that. So here are some good places to start or things to try when it comes to light. Try positioning your subject so that the light source, maybe it's a window or the sun, is like 45 degrees. And then compare that to backlight or side light and see what you like. When it comes to location, the 50mm will show the background, so you can't just shoot anywhere. Find a setting that has good context to tell the story that you want to tell. And then use your composition and framing skills to hide any distractions or unfavorable elements. Part 5, let's talk limitations and comparisons. Hopefully by now you see just how fantastic shooting portraits with the 50mm can be. But let's break down some pros, cons, limitations, and other lenses to consider. The 50 is great for beginners. It's sharp, affordable, and allows you to learn and grow without being overwhelmed by gear. If you're shooting with a kit lens, the time to upgrade is now. It's also great for travelers and lifestyle photographers because it's so lightweight and versatile that it's easy to use in tight spaces or spontaneous situations. The 50mm is great for everyone from professionals to hobbyists because it can be used indoors and outdoors and adds some variety to your portraits if you're always shooting with the 35 and 85. And with the incredible value for the price, this lens is great for anyone who's budget conscious. For example, I'm holding the Sony 55 f1.8 priced at roughly $1,000 new, and you can get it for even less if you buy it used. If you're looking for the best gear, be sure to download our free money and gear guide. where we help thoughtful photographers simplify their gear so they can focus on their creativity. You'll find those links in the description below. And to review other portrait lenses, you might check out my video on how to shoot portraits with the 35mm. It's wider, great for environmental portraits, where you want to show more of the scene, or where you need something that's good in tight spaces. It can, however, distort features up close. The 85, on the other hand, is a favorite portrait lens, especially for tighter headshots, but don't let that limit your framing, because of the beautiful bokeh and flattering compression. However, because it's so tight, it can be less personal with a longer working distance from your subject. I haven't made a video on shooting portraits with the 85, so if that's something you want, let me know in the comments below. Basically, the 35mm is the storyteller's portrait lens, while the 85 is the facial features focused lens, while the 50 is a middle ground. So in conclusion, don't underestimate the 50mm lens. It teaches you how to see, how to move, and how to connect with your subject. And the best portraits are the ones where you see a connection to the subject. You, as the photographer, have to make that connection. The 50 reminds me that presence is power. You don't have to zoom in or step back, just meet people where they are. That's when real connection happens. What would it look like today to truly see someone, not just with your eyes, but with your attention? If you're just getting started in portraiture, this lens will make you better. Head to the links in the description to see our recommendations. And hit that subscribe button, because next week we'll be talking about why the 50mm is a secret weapon for landscape and adventure photography. This video topic was based on a question in the comments, so continue the conversation and let us know how you use your 50mm or what you want to learn next. Next up, check out a more general video on how to shoot with this lens, and I'll see you over there.